Hello everyone and welcome to a game I was pretty sure I covered already back in 2020, but turns out I haven't. It comes as a suggestion from a subscriber. He also sent an interview with Magnus Carlsen. It's a new interview where they asked Magnus what is the biggest blunder you've ever made, and he said, I've made many blunders, but this one, it kept me awake at night. It is Magnus Carlsen versus Vasyl Ivanchuk, the Legends of Chess tournament back in 2020. And the match itself ended in a draw. It went into Armageddon, and Magnus Carlsen won the match in the end. But this is the game that keeps Magnus awake at night, or at least it kept him at that time. So let's check it out. I haven't seen it. Magnus even said that this is the way, no one misses mate in one. This is how they make it seem in the movies, and this is how they actually make movies. But it actually happened to Magnus, and yeah, let's check it out. So Magnus opens with pawn to d4. Sorry about no clock times. For some reason, they've removed them from the PGN. We have knight to f6, pawn to c4, e6, and knight to f3, followed by bishop to b4 check. We have the Bogo-Indian defense, and knight b to d2. This is a rapid game. Of course, it's a rapid match, and like I said, the match itself was a draw, and then it went into Armageddon. We have castles kingside, pawn to a3, and bishop to e7. Okay, nothing weird happening here. All been played before. Pawn to e4, pawn to d6. Bishop to e2, and knight f to d7. We have knight to b1 by Magnus, trying to be tricky. Pawn to b4 is pretty much exclusively played here, but he goes knight b1. We have pawn to d5 by Vasyl, and knight to c3. We have d captures on e4, knight captures on e4, and now there are some games where b6 was played. Here, Vasyl goes knight to f6, and it is now as of move 10 that we have a completely new game. So, okay, queen c2 by Magnus, nicely developing, defending the knight. We have knight b to d7, and Magnus could also capture and then go bishop to f4. He decides to go knight e to g5, pawn to c5 from Vasyl, and bishop to e3. We have queen to a5 with check, king to f1. Magnus not worried about castling. He wants to go after Vasyl's king. Queen back to c7, and rook to d1. We have pawn to b6, preparing to fianchetto the light square bishop. Knight to e5, and knight captures on e5. D captures, queen captures, and now bishop to f3. Magnus sacrifices a pawn for some rapid development. We have rook to b8, pawn to h4, and queen back to c7. Okay, no problems there. We have rook to h3, bishop to b7, offering to trade off a very strong piece that Magnus has on f3, rook to e1, and rook b to d8. We have bishop captures on b7, queen captures, and bishop back to d2. Magnus now wants to get his bishop to this strong diagonal. Pawn to h6, and now bishop to c3. And it seems like, okay, there's a knight being offered, but if Vasyl captures, he's getting checkmated. Captures, and there is not much you can do here. Of course, the knight cannot move. You're simply going to capture and then checkmate the black king, or black will suffer severe material loss. So after bishop to c3, we have rook f to e8, and now we have king to g1, which is very nicely done by Magnus. If you go for the seemingly crushing knight captures on f7, you're not going to get far, because after king captures, and let's say rook g3, okay, you're going to g6, but rook g8 stops checkmate, and there's nothing there. Queen g6 check, king to f8, and now rook can come to f3 or to e3. It's enough for white to get a draw, but nothing more. So after rook f to e8, we have king to g1, and Vasyl goes rook to d7. Okay, time to double up. We have knight back to f3, bishop to d6, and knight to e5. We have bishop captures, and rook e to d8. Vasyl still has the extra pawn, and it doesn't seem like there's all that much for him to worry about. Now, Magnus could play captures on f6, but again, rook g3, it's not much. You can go king to f8, you can go king to h8, both is fine, and there's no clear continuation. Queen h7, you can go rook to d1, the king comes to e7. It's a perfectly fine position. But yeah, if you want to draw, this is how you do it. But Magnus obviously wanted more. He played he played the bishop back to c3, and Vasyl played queen to c7. We have queen to c1. Knight to e4. Now Magnus over pushing a little bit. Rook to f3 and knight captures on c3. So Magnus loses his prized bishop. There's no way out of it. Queen captures, and now rook to d4. Vasyl just grabbing more space. We have pawn to g3, and now rook 8 to d7. Just keeping an eye on that f7 pawn before moving on to other things. We have pawn to b3, queen to c6, and rook f to e3, and now pawn to a5. We have pawn to a4, and queen to d6. Tripling up on the d file. Queen to c2, we have queen to c6, and queen to e2. We have rook 7 to d6, queen to h5 by Magnus, and queen to d7. We have queen to f3, and queen to d8. Okay, it's a rapid game, so of course they're making their moves rapidly. King h2, we have rook to d2, and rook 1 to e2. We have a trade of a pair of rooks, captures, captures, and rook to d2. Vasyl wins the second rank. Queen to e1, and now pawn to h5. We have rook to f3, pawn to g6, and queen to e4. We have rook to d4, again chasing away the queen, but now queen b7. Okay, Magnus's queen also has become very active. We have rook to d7, attacking the queen, queen to c6, and king to g7. We have king to g2 and rook to d6. Okay, just chasing the queen a little bit. Queen to b7, we have queen to d7, now offering a rook trade, and Magnus goes back. Queen to e4, we have pawn to f6, rook to e3, pawn to e5, and king to h2. We have rook to d2, and rook to e2. Magnus now offering a trade. Rook to d4, Vasyl declines, and queen to a8. We have rook to d3, rook to b2, defending the b3 pawn, and pawn to f5. Vasyl continuing to push. We have queen to b8, and queen to d6. Now offering a queen trade. Magnus declines. Queen b7 check, king to h6, queen to c8, and queen to f6. We have queen to c7, and here pawn to f4. Vasyl goes after Magnus's king, rook to e2, and f captures on g3. F captures and pawn to e4. Vasyl starts advancing his passed pawn, and it seems like you could capture that pawn, but if you capture the pawn, then of course queen f2, or even better, rook to d2 check, and the game is over. Not a lot for you to do here. If you go here, then queen to f1 is just checkmate, and if you go down the board, again, queen f1 checkmate. King g1 also doesn't help you because queen f2 check, and then queen to h2, or g2 will also be checkmate. So queen to b8, and now rook captures on b3. Vasyl grabs a very, very important pawn. Queen to e8, and now Vasyl plays just pawn to e3, which again is defended by a tactic, because if you capture, then queen f2 check nicely connects with the rook. But even better was the instant rook captures on g3. We're going to show it because it's very nice. Point is that after queen f3 check and king h2, you can capture with check, and regardless of where the white king goes, let's say king h1, queen f3 check, king h2, you give a nice check, let's say king h3, now you go back, you defend against checkmate, because that is a problem. Queen to h8 would be checkmate, as the pawn is covering the g5 square. And now white cannot capture on e4, or rather Magnus could not, because if you capture, then queen f5 check, you force a queen trade, and of course easily winning endgame. But okay, Vasyl played pawn to e3, we have king to g2, and now rook to c3. Sorry about that. We have rook captures on e3. Now Vasyl sort of blunders the winning advantage. Rook captures on c4. Rook to f3, attacking the queen, and queen to g7. And now you could well, you could play a lot of moves, but for example, rook to f8 wins on the spot. There's no defense against rook to h8. You can give one check, but that's pretty much it. King comes to h3, and that's it. Magnus misses this. He plays queen to e3 with check, and now after king h7, it's a draw again. We have queen to e6, and now again queen d4, and it's perfectly fine. But Vasyl plays rook to c2 check, and now Magnus is winning again. King h3, we have king to h6, queen to e3 with check. We have king to h7, and now queen to e8. king to h6, and here queen to e3 with check. King to h7, almost a threefold repetition, but Magnus wants to win. He doesn't want to draw, and he plays queen b3, which looks very nice as it's attacking the rook and the b6 pawn. There is a problem here. Okay, I imagine you see it, but just in case you don't, feel free to pause the video and win the game for Vasyl while I give you a couple of seconds. So yes, the move is queen to d7 check. This is what Vasyl played, and Magnus was obviously very, very upset. He got up from the board, and he could not believe what he has just, committed. And yeah, this is the game that Magnus says is his biggest blunder. Queen b3, I imagine the move that is his biggest blunder that he ever played. The game that kept him awake at night, and the one that, well, I still haven't covered, so I'm covering it now. But yeah, it's not mate in one, but just as good, because there's no, I mean, there's nothing you can do. You just give up the queen, then you give up the rook, then you give up the pawn, and then it's checkmate. So I mean, it really is a mate in one. So missing this is like missing mate in one, regardless of it being a mate in three. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, yeah, I don't know why I didn't cover this game. Probably, I arrived late or something. I know I covered the Armageddon game, and Magnus won the Armageddon, so he won the match. But yeah, this is a pretty important piece of chess history, and it seems like almost a theme that every world champion, his worst ever loss is against Vasyl Ivanchuk. If you haven't seen the one, the Kasparov's one, also check it out, from Linares, 1991, also against Vasyl Ivanchuk. We'll even put a first link in the description below, so you can check that out as well. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Tefaz Vanagvaru, Alexander Schaefer, Milos Knežević, Gerhard Henkelman, and Amar Mirza for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.